All set, Pat?
All set, Kathleen, you ready to go?
All right, great. It's time for the Regional Board of Education meeting Monday, May 18th, 2020. I'll do roll call. Scott,
Present.
please state your town, please, to Scott. Thanks.
Sorry, you threw me off with the order. I wasn't ready. Scott
know.
Flair, Marlboro.
It's always hard to be first, isn't it?
Scott Flair,
Joe?
Marlboro.
Thanks, Scott. Joe,
Joe O'Connor, Hebron.
Rob,
Rob Shuttle, Hebron.
Dave,
Dave Gustanian, Andover.
Vinny,
Vin Colonna, Hebron.
Sue,
Sue Rapley, Marlboro.
Judy,
Judy Benson Clark, Marlboro.
Jessica,
Jessica Dapsis, Hebron.
Stephanie,
Stephanie Bancroft, Andover.
Jean? No Jean? Okay, and I am here. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, according to our agenda, we have the election of officers. We are looking for a nomination or a motion for a board chair.
I would like to nominate Stephanie Bancroft for the board chairperson position.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Scott Flair.
Any discussion?
We need to make sure if there's any other nominations to ask for those as well.
Thanks, Pat. Are there any other nominations? Okay, Stephanie, are you willing to be the board chair?
I am.
Awesome. Stephanie Bancroft will be the board chair. The only other consideration for the board is that Stephanie was currently serving as the secretary. So if she moves to board chair, then we will have to consider the secretary's position. Pat?
Kathleen, I would like to nominate Scott Flair for board secretary.
Do I have a second?
I'll second Rob.
Any other nominations? Okay, Scott, do you accept the role as secretary for the RHAM Board of Education?
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Kathleen, you need to make sure for each motion that you actually have a vote for each of those. So you'll need to actually get a vote and get yay or nay for the chair and yay or nay for the secretary from each board member.
can I do them together or do they need to be separate, Pat?
There's separate motions, so they need to be done separately.
If there's no other nominations, you can have the board secretary cast one vote, can't you?
You can.
As long as the board's okay with that.
You can, but what you're suggesting never hurts. It's, an abundance of caution. I'm fine going through I would vote yes for Stephanie, if we want to do Stephanie first.
Okay, thanks, Judy. Scott? This is for Stephanie as board chair.
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Sue?
No.
Jessica?
Yes.
Jean is not here, and I vote yes as well. The motion carries. For Scott for secretary,
I vote yes. This is Judy.
thank you, Judy. Scott, you can't vote on yourself. No. Joe,
Yes.
thank you. Rob,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Vinny,
Yes.
Sue,
No.
Jessica,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
And Kathleen, thank you very much for your brief service. You've been very positive, and we're lucky to have you continue on as vice chair.
I appreciate that, Judy, and thank you for the honors of serving, even if it was only in an interim position and for a short time. I'm glad that we have a newly elected board chair and that we have everybody we need at this time to continue moving forward and supporting the students, staff, and family of the RHAM community. I certainly respect anybody who has done the board chair position, and I wish Stephanie the best is in her role, and I'm still the vice chair. I'm happy to support you, Stephanie. And thank you to the board. It was, thank you for your support in this short time. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. We're on to public comments. If anyone has a public comment, please type into the comments, or if you are on cell phone, you can speak up.
Stephanie, just a reminder too that public comments are 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm happy to time them, or if Rob or anybody else out there would like to have that position, that's fine.
Rob has offered to time them. I'll read the rules here. Hebron and Andover Marlboro community engagement and attendance at BOE public meetings is welcomed. The public comment segment of the meeting agenda is set aside so the Board of Education may receive public comments. Procedurally, public remarks will be limited to 3 minutes and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. Because the Board of Education is limited by the Freedom of Information Act to discussing only matters on the agenda, the Board of Ed is not permitted to engage in a discussion of the comments presented. Any public comments?
Hello. I have a comment, Ethan Spinelli from Marlboro.
Go ahead, Ethan.
How you doing, everybody? Like I said, Ethan Spinelli, Marlboro. I did just want to talk, hopefully maybe I can get a little bit more, 3 minutes. This is usually the time of year where I like to thank everybody for the great job that we did, and it's been an extraordinary year. There's a lot of people to thank, and over the past 2 months, we had a chance to witness what a great community we live in. Everybody came together to make sure the students of this community could feel safe emotionally and continue to learn academically in these ever-changing times. The teachers and counselors at RHAM would like to recognize and thank those that made it possible. And I ask, maybe I have more than 3 minutes, or I'll talk fast. There are a lot of people. To the custodial and maintenance staff, Mike and his crew, they didn't even leave the building. The teachers know that they're going to be there over the summer, taking care of the facilities so that we have a safe environment to return to if and when we return to the building. Food services, I had the pleasure to help out one Friday early on and watch them work and feed our community and what it meant to our community. The parents and the students that showed up there, they were out there early spring when it was raining and cold and bitter. And I can't say enough of what they did to support our community. The tech department, Scott, Shane, Eric, Sam Shadow, Joan Marie, as soon as we were schooling from home, they were off and running, sending resources to teachers, students, making sure everybody was online, getting hotspots, handing out computers, Chromebooks, chargers, unbelievable effort on their part. The office staff, keeping the school organized, the administrative assistants. I want to thank Daryl, wish him the best of luck in the future. I'm sure the faculty, I know the faculty is disappointed we can't say goodbye in person. And I know the students are probably equally as sad they won't get to say goodbye to Daryl, but he will be missed. The paras, they picked up right when school went home, and they emailed teachers, said, what can we do? They met with students in their own time just to reach out to them emotionally, say, hey, how you doing? If you need help, there's people here. You're not alone in this. The building administrators, Mike and Carrie Ann at the middle school. I was at the middle school a long time. It's like herding cats down there. They made sure the students and teachers had everything they needed to be successful, to keep some kind of sense of normalcy, sending out letters and updates often so that parents were never in the dark and knew what was happening. Scott, Penny, and Chris, always cool, calm, and collected. We need to thank them at the high school, especially the upperclassmen, very worried about how their time at RHAM was going to end. Those administrators always made sure those kids would get some kind of closure as they left one opportunity and headed into another, a very unknown future for them. And those administrators are making it as seamless as possible. Christine and Pupil Services for continuing to make our most sensitive students feel supported from home. I'm sure, probably like many of you, I don't know if I want to hear the word Zoom or Meet for a long time, but thanks to Christine and Pupil Services. Dan, the athletic director, it's hard enough to manage a season and all the sports without a pandemic. I'm confident he's going to be able to manage that RHAM athletics into the future. It was a pleasure working with him as a teacher and a coach this year. And I will say he is a great fit for our community and a great advocate for the athletic community at RHAM. To each and every board member, thank you for your time and effort. Now more than ever is a time to unite for the students of this district, to listen to each other and acknowledge the unique and special talents that each member sitting in that room brings to the table, and provide a cohesive front and to be an example for all other towns and districts in this area to follow. A special thanks to Sue for her time as board chair. I do remember the first time when you were elected and the first board meeting you attended. Since then, you have done nothing but put the best interests of this town and the students that we serve first. I'm happy that you will continue to serve on this board and provide guidance and experience for those newer members. Lastly, a big thanks to Dr. Law. I am saddened to see that you are leaving. Shocked is probably the word I would use. I've enjoyed our time working together and solving problems, big and small. The way you organized and managed this district in the past 2.5 months shows the type of exceptional leader you are and needed in this district. It will not be easy to find someone to continue to lead RHAM with the patience, integrity, and dignity that you have shown to the students, teachers, and parents of this community. I wish you all the best in the future, and please accept our sincere gratitude for your service to this community. I know I'm forgetting someone, but lastly, I just 10 more seconds. Lastly, the board should know whatever happens over the next coming months, please know the RHAM teachers are here and ready to do whatever it takes to make sure the students of this community are safe, emotionally, and ready academically for an uncertain future. We have been here and are here now. We'll be here in September as we start this journey again, and look forward to the positive collaboration it will bring between the board, administration, and the teaching faculty. I wish everybody a happy and safe summer if I don't get to see you, and be well. Thank you for the time. I do appreciate it. I know that was longer than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ethan. Are
Thank
there
you.
any other comments? Okay, I'm not hearing anyone on the phone or either in chat. Okay, moving on.
Chat?
I'm sorry?
Is Rob Shadow, was he in chat?
He was just giving me the 3-minute warning, I believe. Okay. All right, next, add and delete agenda items. Are there any agenda items to add or delete at this time?
Yes, I would like to add a discussion and possible action to have a designated board member write a draft Board of Education statement for legal review at the next Board of Education executive session.
I'll second that for discussion.
Okay. All in favor? I'll go down the list. Dave?
Can we discuss that a little bit? I'm a little confused about
Okay,
it.
discussion before a vote, right? Okay, anyone have a discussion?
Judy, I'm a little confused because you said that you want it for the following meeting?
The next, there's hopefully an executive session meeting this week.
Oh. Okay, but wouldn't that be just something that the person who's scheduling it just adds to it? Why we need a motion for that, but.
I don't know. I thought it would be that's my dog. I thought it would be helpful to, just for clarity purposes, and just so that, it's agreed to in a public forum at a meeting, to do it. Just, I guess, for transparency reasons, if you will. It maybe doesn't have to be done. Dave, I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of like what Dr. Law had us do, that we voted on the individuals, even though no one was opposing. It won't hurt to do it. It may be extra, but it just provides clarity, and there's no downside to it, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
So Judy, you're looking for 2 people to step up to write a statement?
It was discussion and possible action to have a board member write a draft Board of Education statement for legal review at the next Board of Education executive meeting. So, Stephanie, it can be open. I'm open to a friendly amendment if someone wants to have that be 2 people, but I mean, we're a great board. We work together collaboratively. I was just imagining someone doing the pre-work, so then it could be edited and everybody could have a piece of it, so that it wasn't starting from ground zero.
Okay.
Under
So-
discussion.
During discussion, is there anyone who would like to step up to write that statement?
I'll
Judy.
draft the statement, Stephanie, if the board wants us to do that. If there's a majority of the board that would like to move that way, I'll gladly draft it.
Stephanie, do you want to find a place to add this on the agenda? So it's been a suggestion to add or delete. So there's a motion to add or delete this. You'll have the discussion, vote on whether or not to add or delete it, and then let us know where you want to put it on tonight's agenda.
Okay. Why don't we, do you want to put it after the subcommittee reports?
Is that under new business? I would put it under
New business, maybe 11.6.
Okay,
And then
11.6.
if you want to add, if you need to take a vote right now to add this to the agenda as 11.6.
That's
Okay.
accurate.
Okay. So we're going to vote for Judy's added agenda item to have Scott write a draft for legal review from the statement from the Board of Ed. Dave?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Vin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So motion passes. We'll put it on as 11.6. Okay. Anything else for additions or deletions? Okay, going on to student representative reports.
Hi, I haven't done one of these in a while, so there's a lot to cover. So we're all doing our best to adjust. Obviously, this is unprecedented and we haven't had to do anything like this before. But I think a lot of the teachers have been very helpful with being flexible and allowing us to work the way we need to get through all of this. This week and last week are AP tests, so those have to be done in a different way. We take them at home and they're 45-minute tests now. So that's a lot of stress on students at the moment, but I think we're all getting through it pretty well. Obviously, the seniors are very upset that things like prom, which is supposed to be next weekend for them, that can't happen, and graduation can't be the way it was going to be. But I believe the seniors are planning, if it's able to happen, to have a prom over the summer. And I think the juniors are planning to do one sometime in the fall. So we're doing our best to get through it. I think the juniors mostly are stressed because we don't know what's going to happen next year. And obviously, you guys can't really give us answers. It's about 4 months away, which isn't really long, but with everything going on, we can't really predict what's going to happen. So I think mostly there's just an increase in anxiety and stress among the students, but we're working to get through it. And we just voted on the new mascot. So I don't know what that is yet, but that was definitely something to look forward to. So overall, I think we're doing the best we can to adjust and get through things. And I think the teachers are being very helpful. And yeah, things are going okay, well as they can be. So yeah.
Thank you very much. We're going on to the Board of Ed Chair report. I'm going to turn this over to Kathleen. Kathleen, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, Stephanie. Just as transition items that came to me in the interim, there's a letter that I will share with the board from AHM looking for a representative to an advisory group. The contact is Heather Pettit, who is the chair of the Hebron Board of Education, and I will make sure that the entire board receives that, and we'll be looking for a representative. In the board chair report, Dr. Law has listed some of the items to come up that we had left from previous meetings that still some people had requested reviews during committees, including the hiring policy in relation to the hiring manual, legal services, and pandemic grading processes. Those are placed in those policy committee subcommittees, and those committees I think start this week so that those can be discussed at the appropriate times. I just want to echo what Mr. Spinelli said, and one of the things that I wanted to acknowledge as in the board chair report, of course, was the teachers and the staff, Dr. Law, and everybody who has supported the RHAM community during this time that we're all home. And I wish the students the best, and I just want to thank the teachers and the staff for doing such a great job. I appreciate it. That's it, Stephanie, unless you have something else. Oh, one other thing, we have the board self-evaluation that Stephanie, I'll pass on to you. We need to get that done at some point. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Now on to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. I do have just some general updates and some things that had been asked that I give some information about. Just to clarify from the board chair report, program subcommittee will be looking at the grading process we have in place during this pandemic time for quarter 3 and 4. So that is the one that's going to program. The other two are in policy and finance. As far as general updates go for graduation and end of year planning, the administrative team every Friday sends out an update to parents and also to the Board of Ed, but people who might not be getting the update, just so you know, we have a variety of resources that we have put in place to help support the transition to the end of the year for students and for staff. We start having staff coming into the building this week if they have to do any closing out of their classrooms, and we have that planned process. At the middle school, locker and belonging pickups will happen June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd by team, and that schedule has been sent out to students. The middle school will still hold an awards ceremony on Friday, May 12th. That will be done by teams virtually. And the middle school 8th grade promotion will happen on Monday, May 15th. And they're sending out details about that as well, again, so that they can get their certificates and be able to move up, but again, following social distancing guidelines. The high school is pulling together information for their honors breakfast for quarter 3, and they will produce and share their information with families for each of the students that are being honored. The high school spring awards ceremony will happen with Google Meets recognition meetings that will happen individually with each family, and those will get scheduled over the next coming weeks. And graduation, we are planning a graduation ceremony at the Lions Fairground. It will be on June 16th. Students will get their caps and gowns ahead of time. There will be a photographer there, and we will have the ability for students to come in their cars and do a drive-through, come up on stage, receive their diploma covers, and have a picture taken for their memories of that. So there's been a lot of collaboration and cooperation with all different entities, from Department of Public Health to the police to the administrative team to everyone at the Lions Club, and helping us to pull this event together. And we're still working out details, and more details will be coming to families over the next couple of weeks. As far as summer school goes, we are still waiting for the specific guidelines to be presented by the state. But right now, at this point, we are planning virtual summer programming for students. And as we receive the guidelines, if there's anything that we need to change or update or modify with those plans, we will certainly be doing that. Returning to fall school and planning for that. We don't know, again, what the guidelines from the state will be for the return to school in the fall. But even though we don't have specific details from the state, we are in the process of planning for the fall, knowing that we will need to be able to disinfect, that we would need to be able to make sure that we have PPEs in place. So we are in the process of making sure that we are purchasing those types of materials for when we do return to school in the fall, having those supplies available to us and ready to be used as part of the plan that gets pulled together. We are working with local superintendents in the area as we're discussing and sharing our plans. We'll be working with teams of teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, department people to pull together plans over the summer and over the next couple of months as we gather information from the state. And as far as expenses for COVID-19 response and planning, those will be part of Eva's report that will come later in the board meeting. So those are my updates at this point.
Pat, I've got a question about PPE. What type of PPE are you purchasing and for who?
Right now, we're looking at face masks in particular, and making sure that for either students and or staff, because those are very possibly something that would be required. We also need to make sure that we provided some of our PPEs to local emergency services in the early part of the COVID-19 issue, and we need to make sure that our nursing equipment is fully stocked and they have what they need as well at this point.
So the plan is to have all students wearing surgical masks, I'm assuming? You're not talking N95s, are you?
We're not buying N95s, no. And we are, if that is a protocol we will at least have the ability to do that. We have not built a protocol. We do not have a process, but we know that PPEs are going to be necessary for some sort of transition for different groups of people, whether it's the adults or the students. So we want to make sure that we at least have those available for us as we develop our protocols.
Okay, thank you. I'm assuming that you're going to be looking towards the state for making a recommendation, right?
We have to wait for the state for their guidelines and recommendations. Absolutely. We will be using those and following those, but we all know that we can start to do some sort of planning ahead of time, as we've been listening to and been part of conversations of how they've been doing that over in Europe as well, and learning from them, as well as our discussion groups from within the district. We're very lucky. Eva has actually been asked to be on the RESC advisory group for EastCon. So she is working with the RESC advisory groups that are providing information to the commissioner and to the governor to help in developing the guidelines for returning to school. So we have a great voice in that process. And again, we're working with our local area RESCs and other superintendents to just do some general planning and sharing of information as we wait for the government and the commissioner to give us the guidelines.
Okay. Will you be equipping the nursing or health staff with a higher level of PPE so that, if there's a potential COVID, patient, that they'll be protected.
We will make sure that they have the PPEs at different levels than what other just people within the school might need, yes.
Right, okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Pat, this is Joe. Do you have any, has there been any discussion on what the middle school graduation is? I'm curious about that.
The 8th grade promotion will be on Monday, May 15th, and I believe Dr. Sarusi is on and could give a couple of details about that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So good evening, everyone. Sorry. The middle school is planning to do a virtual promotion. We're going to have a promotion video with the speeches and with the students' names that are going to be read, sort of your typical promotion like we do in the morning. Our plan is to play the promotion ceremony on the 15th in the morning, starting around 8 or 9. And myself and Miss Bell will be on hand at the school, along with some other staff, to hand out certificates and awards that the 8th graders received. We're in the process of working all the specific details out, but we have a whole plan. We would like to try to keep the traditional model that we've done in the past, but we understand in these times we want to do it virtually, and also to give parents who may or may not be able to would have not been able to attend something, to actually, they can watch it at any point in the day. They can actually download the whole ceremony as well if they'd like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think Vinny has a question.
Yes, Pat. I just wondered, did they give you any kind of timeline for the reopening plans, or is all that still up in the air?
All that is still up in the air.
Okay.
Scott, I think I saw that you have a question as well.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. So I wanted to commend the team for looking ahead and forward thinking on graduation and coming up with some options. But I had some calls and actually ran into a couple of seniors myself over the weekend, and I'm definitely I've read what was sent out, and I'm a little bit confused as to are we fully committed and all into the June option, which I think is the fairgrounds option. But I think I either read, or either that or one of the students who was part of the planning committee said that there's also potentially a July graduation, and so just would be curious to see if you or Mr. Leslie could just clarify a little bit to help me understand a little bit more detail about if there is a one or the other, and if there's a timeline, or if we're just fully committed to the June, so the board and anyone else who's on here could better understand that.
Scott, would you like to, since you've been doing the majority of the planning with students, would you like to share some details about that?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. We've been working with the senior class officers, and we have really, at this point, we have 2 graduations scheduled. So we're committed to the June 16th graduation ceremony. In talking to the seniors, it was clear that they wanted to not necessarily replicate, because they know we can't do that, but they wanted some form of graduation ceremony that allowed them to be there and to experience the opportunity of walking across the stage with their parents present. So the June 16th is a highly modified graduation that will allow every student to participate in a ceremony. We have reserved St. Clemens, which is where the senior prom was originally scheduled. for July 28th, and we have the Lions Fairgrounds reserved for July 30th for graduation. We felt it important to hold dates, whether it's those dates or whether it looks a little different. I think everybody we're working with knows that flexibility is going to be key here. If there are some openings or we're able to move forward with anything, it may be that week in July is not necessarily the best week to do it. It might be the next week in August. So we're trying to keep our options open as much as possible so that if there's an opportunity to provide a more traditional graduation, we'll be able to do so. So I'd like to say that there's going to be 2 graduation ceremonies. We didn't feel comfortable in putting all of our hope in a July graduation. That's a little more traditional. So we felt we needed to do something on June 16th in case a July-August timeframe still isn't possible.
And that really mirrors what the commissioner was saying. Is they'd actually even said, I think the same thing, don't put all your eggs in one basket for like hoping that you'll be able to do something in July or August, because that might not come to fruition.
Right.
So again, we're trying to honor the actual day of graduation, but still hope for the future for a potential traditional graduation. Thanks, Scott.
Appreciate that, Scott and Dr. Law. So the June 16th is for sure that highly modified, safe, approved one. And then the sometime in July to be determined more fuller traditional is still on the table and possible, and we may end up doing both. Is that
correct? Yeah, correct. So, for example, we typically rent the graduation gowns. We spent a few extra dollars so that students can keep them. So that way, if we are able to do something in July or August, the gowns will already be there. Students will have them. So we're trying to set things up as much as possible so that we can go either way.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Just would ask that, especially for the second one, since we know the June is going to take place, if you could just keep the board posted as that develops as early as you can. Appreciate it.
Scott, this is Vin. Could you just give a quick update on the prom too, so that the board knows what's kind of happening?
The prom is, well, I mean, again, this is going to be entirely dependent upon what's allowed at the time. So we have been working with St. Clemens, which is the original location for the prom. They've been very good working with us as long as we choose a weekday. They're hoping that weekends in July, they'll be back at least doing something. So we have a senior prom scheduled for June 28th at this point. And again, if it looks like there's an opening.
July 28th?
I'm sorry, July 20th, July 20th. I wish, I guess I'm too optimistic in my thinking there. We did survey the senior class, and approximately 85% of the seniors would like to hold some sort of prom in July. So.
Thank you.
Kathleen, did you have a question?
Just a quick one for Dr. Sarusi or Mrs. Bell. Mr. Leslie said that there's a potential to hold 2 graduations for the senior class. Is that a consideration for 8th graders as well?
We did not look into that, no.
Would you consider that?
We can consider it. Our thought is that the kids will be raring to go over the summer and getting ready for 9th grade. So it's something we can have a discussion over. Definitely.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, is there any more discussion or questions? Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. 9.1, approval of minutes. The May 4th, 2020 enclosure 9.1A. April 30th, 2020 enclosure 9.1B. April 27th, 2020, enclosure 9.1C, April 22nd, 2020, enclosure 9.1D, and lastly, April 20th, 2020, enclosure 9.1E, as well as 9.2 personnel actions, a resignation from Cunningham, enclosure 9.2. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I make a motion, this is Joe, to accept the consent agenda.
Yep. I second that. It's Kathleen.
Okay, we'll go to vote.
Oh, we got a discussion.
Actually, is it a discussion? Sorry.
It's
Any
okay.
discussion?
Go ahead, Vinny.
Yeah, I just had just a couple things. On April 27th, 2020, in the public comment, the first under number 3, it wasn't Karen Simon, it was Taryn, Taryn, and Matt Malone was Matt Milone, Milone. That was the only changes I saw.
Stephanie, I had also noticed some corrections on the April 22nd minutes under public comments. Spelling Carol Connolly, Connolly is the correct spelling. And the same thing on public comments again on that for correct spelling. And then under April 20th, the public budget meeting, is that part of this? It is 9-1 echo, yes, right? So I was confused by the public comments for Mrs. DiMatteo. It read, Mrs. DiMatteo noted her concern regarding the decision not to go to bid with Chartwells for the food service contract, noted that an additional savings may be found. Just clarification on that. I don't remember what that was really about. Maybe a future clarification on that. And then on the next page, I believe it says Mrs. Gallagher's respond to the new accounting system. I believe that should be Eva, Mrs. Gallup. And then a correction by Mr. Tierney further down. He also noted that this type of funding cannot be paid to municipality, but paid to a town. I'm not sure if for the clarification, municipality, is RHAM considered a municipality?
No, so.
So I think
No, it would, you're correct, Joe. It would be, cannot be paid to a regional or cannot be paid to the school district, but has to be paid to municipality.
okay, thank you. And that was it. Thank you.
Is there any
Karen,
other?
are you good with all of those?
Yep, no problem. I have to just read Amy DiMattio's comments to understand what might have happened there. And is it okay to email Joe directly, or do you want me to update the minutes? Maybe my wording is just wrong. I'll read through it and then I'll reach out to Dr. Law and see how I should proceed with that one.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion? Well, now do we go to a vote?
Yeah.
Okay. We are voting on the consent agenda to accept. Dave?
Aye.
Jessica?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Vin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay, moving on to old business. There is none. We move on to number 11 with new business. Number 11.1, review of expenditure and revenue reports.
All right, good evening, everyone. So in your packet, you have a very detailed review of the net projection and line items that I may have highlighted that will have future impact and or future refunds being processed to parents and families. I've also noted that the HVAC project is looking forward towards the completion and should be completed no later than May 31st. In the packet, you'll notice that there's a net favorable projection of $615,516, from which there are projected transfers that will lessen that dollar amount so that we could adjust for the 2021 budget and or purchase PPE equipment. Also, as this packet is part of the regular transfers that are scheduled per the board policy, those are also included. So I will need motions on the transfers, but that's the second agenda item. Also in your packet under the 11.1 on page 14 and 15, you'll see a listing of COVID-19 expenditures that were asked from a previous meeting. You'll also notice that all but one at this time have been paid for. We're still waiting for an invoice for the Khajiits to come in. Those are hotspots. And if you have any questions on the expenditures, please let me know.
Okay. So now we need to go to a motion to.
No motion yet.
No motion yet? Oh, you're not finished. Okay, I'm sorry.
So I'll let anyone ask questions about the expenditures and then we can focus in on the transfers.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, Stephanie, I have some questions. Thank you. Just Joe. Eva, on page 14, I'm just looking at a couple of these COVID charges. What are hotspots? The Khajiit hotspots, 4 months for $5,000?
So we have students that did not have access to the internet. So the hotspot is something that the district is leasing on behalf of the families so that they could have 4 months worth of internet coverage. The equipment needs to come back to the district so we can return it to the vendor.
Okay, and then the Zoom conferencing software for $1,800?
So that was software that was purchased so that we could hold meetings. I'm not sure if that's still moving forward in terms of being utilized, but because we're using the Google Hangouts at the moment, but that was something that was purchased to try to help us move forward with our virtual world.
We are using the Zoom meetings because there is a part of that for privacy types of aspects that Google does not have, in particular for our special education meetings, PPTs, and other types of private types of meetings that need to happen. So that Zoom software with the upgrade is being used.
Thank you.
Is this an annual, Pat? Is this an annual subscription?
It is an annual subscription and it can be canceled.
I only point this out because I've been asking this for like 5 years now to try and get virtual, to enhance our dial-in capabilities for when we have regular, for board members we're traveling, to have this technology. And it's so I would like to see this continue to go forward for the future if we're going to be able to have, as it seems to work very effectively for everybody. But I'm just wondering why it took us so long to get here. The other question I had was tents for $1,300.
So during Ethan Spinelli's comments, he had made a mention of how in the pouring rain, people were handing out food. Well, in a couple of those pouring rain, we had wicked windstorms and 2 of our tents are no longer. So we had to replenish our tent supply.
So these are purchased, right? So we own
Correct.
the tents. Okay.
Correct.
Is this the big white tent that I see out front?
That's actually a rental and that's a little bit more secure and we're able to remove the sides when heavy winds come and it's a better protection for us.
So we own that tent now?
No, that's a rental. So we're renting that. So we did dual purpose here because we were replacing the tents that broke and we were getting something a little bit more secure for us.
Well, I think the tent is a great idea. Maybe we should look into buying a tent, what's the rental cost on that and what is versus the purchase on that? Because it seems to have a value and have purpose going forward.
So don't quote me, but the rental cost was around $4,000 for the 3 months that we have it for.
So could I ask to maybe next time we look at maybe for future, what it would cost to buy a tent like that in store? Would we have the
Sure.
capability to do that?
Sure.
Okay. If you can get back to us, that'd be great. And just a clarification, Evie, I think you mentioned in here, these the COVID stuff, we're going to be submitting this to FEMA, so are we up for 100% reimbursement on that?
No, FEMA is only 75% reimbursement, but I believe I've stated at a previous meeting, this past, I don't know, a couple months ago, I think in February, we received reimbursement for a blizzard that happened, I believe, in 2006. And so it takes a few years, or sorry, maybe it was 2015. Sorry, it takes a few years. It was 5 years. It takes a few years to get the money back. So, and that was for a blizzard that hit our area. I'm not sure how long the money will take to get back from the federal government, considering this is nationwide.
Okay. Could I ask, does anybody else, I'll let somebody else go, but I have some more questions on the reports, but I don't want to take up everybody else's time. So I'll let them go first, and if you can circle back to me, that'd be great.
This has been, I just had a question. Eva, could you give us an update on the bus, the DATCO contract, and we are paying the buses for the regular school transportation? Are we paying for what would have been the after-school activities, the sporting events and stuff?
We are in negotiations with DATCO currently, and there's nothing that has been settled as of yet.
That's all I have.
Can we talk about the capital, on page 11, please? It's Joe again.
Go ahead.
What are other professional tech services? What's that line item? I'm sure it's something I already know about, but I just.
Oh, so the other professional technical services would be for, I'm drawing a blank right now. So like your landscaping services, so like your BSC group, your Luke's, those kind of professional services that help us do
engineers, things like that. No problem.
Okay, and then the other one is cleaning services, 420.
So again, that is for services that we would purchase to help us do things. And so in this one, it happens to be the groundskeeping.
All right.
Yes.
Why is it in capital improvement? Is that?
So it has to be the dollar amount, but I have to tell you honestly, and thank you for pointing this out. So actually yesterday afternoon, I noticed that my report for capital improvement this is actually capital non-recurring, and the capital improvement is a different report. I mislabeled the names of the reports, and so I didn't provide you the one that you guys really needed. So, but moving forward, I will be providing you both of the reports because it is something that you guys should probably look at both of them.
Yes, thank you. Okay, my questions are on transfers next, so I'll let you, if we can get to that. Thank you.
Stephanie, I think Scott Flair has 2 questions. Scott, if you want to go ahead.
Thanks, Pat. I just wanted to circle back to the Zoom, the annual fee. 2 things. You should definitely double check on that. I'm not an expert on Zoom, but I'm pretty sure that up to or less than 100 users, I mean, I've used it for free and lots of people use it for free. So if we were using it at a reduced capacity, it would be just good to save the money. So it would be great if you could circle back on that and let us know what the reality was that with the Zoom subscription. And then I asked at a previous meeting, I'm not sure if it was the budget meeting or the last full board meeting, for some kind of a running tabulation, even though I know that it would be an estimation of potential savings that are resulting from our reduced, the way that we're operating right now. Vinny asked the question about the buses. That would just be one, aspect of many. So I just wanted to ask again to have kind of a more specific, and it may, I would say, if it's in the report, even I missed it. I tried to go through the report in as much time as I had this afternoon, but just like to see called out the savings. Just seen several instances across the state where there's really significant savings with the schools operating in the footprint and the way that we are right now. So I'd just like you to share that information with the board and have that kind of package together so that we can look at it separately.
So if you look through the reports, so the expenditure reports, pages 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, those are all your object lines that are in here that make up the budget. Anywhere that there's a positive balance, well, there should be positive balances, are where you have monies that are left, that are unspoken for. In terms of the DATCO or the transportation, those are still encumbered because potentially I am on the hook for them still, but that's why for Executive Order 7R, we're negotiating with the bus contractor to try to see if there is any savings there based on what the governor stated. So how much more or what are you looking for, I guess, is what I need to understand.
To have those potential cost things just parsed out and separated, and then based on what you just shared with us, there would be a encumbered and not encumbered column, I guess, just for folks to get a sense of what the size and scope of potential savings or not savings is. So
on page 2 of the net projection, so the expenditure budget status, those are all expenditures and they're grouped in that way. So there's your encumbrances are the 3rd column, 4th column from the right-hand side. Your total is $615,516 of available net projection. You want more specific than that? Is that?
Yeah, I see that and I understand the net favorable projection. So I'll just try to rephrase it one more time. Okay. I'm looking for, so if I understand it correctly, if I look at the 615, 516, that's an all-in that has nothing to do with, there's COVID pandemic related savings and or additional costs baked in there, but they're not separate. So I'm specifically looking for things that we've saved or also additional costs, which we've talked about a bunch at the front end here, that are specific to the pandemic so that it's broken out.
Okay, so I will do my best to try to break something out.
Stephanie, I have one more question. Eva, on page 22, the chart wheel.
Yep.
I just need some help with understanding the spreadsheet, please. And you can give it to me as reader, the fast version, but I don't understand these numbers. I'm sorry.
So what numbers don't you understand?
Sales and reimbursement, interest deposits. So let's start at the beginning, July, you're 62,000. That's what you took in Chartwell's is what it cost us for the services. Direct expenditures, budget offsets, 500. Operating balance, 89,000. It's a startup number. So I'll start there. Well, your beginning number was 56. So you're telling us at the end here of April, we have a $27,000 operating balance. Is that a favorable position, or is that something?
That is, okay, so basically that $27,000 is what is left in the account as of April 30th. We have 17,000, approximately 17,000 more coming in for the April reimbursement from the state of Connecticut for serving meals. The majority of that is student dollars that are that have been prepaid on their accounts. As I was trying to explain through the various meetings, is Chartwell's hasn't been doing their best to move us in a positive direction after our admin review. So sales have been dropping off, and we had a lot of it had to do with we couldn't sell certain things while we were still under the review. So a lot of that came into play and it caught up.
I'm not sure I understand what caught. I mean, our balance, which was strong, has caught up to us, meaning because their services were not they were subpar, and is that I don't understand.
Yes.
I don't understand this. I really don't. I'm sorry, but I don't know if any of the other board members do. But no, typically we see a very high number here. And then what's throwing me off is my question. The second part of it is you have a little on the notes, April invoice of 27,883 to be paid from operating. So
correct.
That now will tell me that we're in a negative position. Is that correct?
Correct. I cannot take that 27,831 out of the account because that'll throw the account over. And then I cannot spend the students' the money that's in their account because technically it is not ours to spend.
So just to clarify, Eva, when we're looking at the operating balance of $27,083.72, the majority of that $27,000 is actually student money that has been prepaid that we will be refunding over the next few weeks because they will not be back in school to use it.
Well, so just for seniors, it'll be refunded,
Right.
and for any students that are not returning to RHAM in the fall.
Right.
But yes, that is a good summation.
But then you're going to be getting money from the state. Is the state going to be giving us money every month?
For whatever meals I serve or we serve, we get a reimbursement based on a percentage. And it's probably equivalent to, if not a little bit less than it would be during a normal school session, lunch that is served or meal that is served.
So is Chartwell's charges or cost to us more than we're taking in from the state?
Correct.
So this negative will continue to trend all the way to the end of the school year?
Correct.
And do you know what's the projection of negative number that would be?
So originally, I believe last month I projected that we would probably be around in the $50,000 mark. But there's a potential that we may not be serving due to the DOT project. So I'm not sure what that number will be at the moment.
So last question, I guess, on Chartwell is, so we have no reserves. So we're negative 50-ish.
Correct. I'm hoping that some more money comes in from the federal government to help offset the cost of feeding students, but that has not come to fruition yet.
Okay, and is this negative 50,000, is that calculated or factored into your favorable position of 615?
Yes.
Okay. Could we see that somewhere? Again, without asking these questions, I can't.
So yes, based on this conversation, based on what Mr. Fleer's asking, I can break something out for you guys.
Okay. Because that's a pretty big delta. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kathleen, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Just looking at the pupil services report, I know there's not much that the district can do at this point regarding students who require special services or have an IEP. I'm just wondering if there's been any tuition reimbursement from any students who may have required supports outside of the district, and also if there's any knowledge about what it will look like going forward for either summer school or for the fall if we are still out. I know that those students need to be served and their IEPs are still in place. And I know it's a challenge for special ed staff to do that. I was just wondering if there's anything monetarily as far as reimbursement. I'm not even asking really about the programming. I'm sure you guys are working hard at supporting those students, but I was just wondering about anything regarding tuition.
So you mean us getting tuition money back or us paying more tuition?
Well, hopefully money back.
Okay. So some of the bills are being adjusted, but they are still providing virtual services and or classes. So we're not seeing a big reduction in that. Again, the majority of the savings is in your transportation. There was one school in particular, I believe it was a school in New Britain, that has not charged us anymore because they are not providing or are not set up to provide the classes virtually.
So even though the students may only be receiving potentially, let's say an hour a day of virtual support as opposed to a 6-hour regular school day, we're being charged the full amount? I'm just making that up. I'm not sure that that's accurate, but something.
That is my understanding, correct?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
This is Judy. That I think Eva and Pat and Kathleen, actually I know is an ongoing state question or issue, and some towns are, as long as best effort and the amount of time are giving full tuition with the justification that we need these services and staff and folks to be there when we get back, and that they are working. So as public school teachers are getting a salary, they get a salary. And then there are some districts that are questioning that, enough so that the special ed bureau chief said that that will be addressed again. So I think we're all waiting for that guidance.
Thanks, Judy. Stephanie, I think Rob put in that he might have a question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just have one quick one. I'm not sure if it will be to Ava or to you, Pat. With our positive surplus balance, have the teachers been asked if they need anything they did not apply for in their regular budget? I'll give you an example. I remember the woman, I believe she was the music teacher, when she presented to us for us in Marlboro, she talked about using the music stands that Hebert Elementary replaced and donated. Is there any talks of maybe just replacing all the new ones, or maybe getting some more distance learning material in case we don't go back to school in the fall?
I have, Eva and I have been working with department coordinators, letting them know that, first of all, they still have monies in some of their accounts that they should be looking at completing spending for supplies or distance learning things, as you've said. And we wanted to make sure also that we move through all of the transfers for the large amount of money that needed to be transferred based on the passing of the 2021 budget, that all of those transfers and all of that clears this process before we go back to teachers looking for other items that beyond what they've already budgeted for. that they might be needing. But we are certainly having those conversations and looking at making sure that we are purchasing what we need in preparation for classrooms and the district moving forward. So yes, we are having those conversations, but we're not actively moving really fast right now until after this board meeting where we wanted to make sure the transfers to cover the over $200,000 that need to happen for the 2021 budget come through this meeting. I hope that makes sense.
It does, because I'm assuming we're going to be in the same boat last year where we're not going to be able to keep more than 1%, which would probably put us right around the 300,000 mark. So anything above that, we would look to spend.
Correct.
And the one thing that they are working on legislatively is looking at last year for municipalities, they changed the rollover amount from 1% to 2%. And Eva, I don't think that that's gone through legislation yet, but I know that it's up there as a bill to allow regional districts to also be able to roll 2%. But Rob, you are correct. Right now, it's 1%.
Correct. It's in the legislative body to discuss, but no movement has happened on that yet.
Thank you.
All right. So are those all the questions regarding the expenditure and the net projections?
Are we going to talk about transfer separately, Eva?
Yes,
Or okay.
yes, that's where I'm heading for.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so now we can focus in on the transfers. I'd like to start with the proposed budget transfers, if that is okay. So if you look at 11.2, and I'm sorry, the page is not numbered, but the top page has 11.2, you see 1, 2, 3, 4 subgroups of a transfer that total out to $226,251. So the sick and severance, that includes everybody in that sick and severance dollar amount of $100,009. The truck payoff, which I received from the bank, which was $29,188. So that takes care of both payments that were left on the truck. This pays it off. We were taking the music lease dollar amount of $6,083. And then the copier lease of $90,972. So do you have any questions on this one as it is proposed?
I do not.
Any other questions?
I have a question on the next page, if that's, if we're going to continue.
Well, can we do one at a time? So can we finish
Yep.
this one first?
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
if I could get a motion on this one, that would be great.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion? To accept the transfers?
This is Joe. I'll make a motion that we accept the transfers in the amount of $226,251 as proposed.
Rob will
Sure.
second.
Okay. Do we need go right into a vote or is there a discussion? No discussion?
Ask for discussion?
Yeah.
Nothing? Okay, going into a vote. Dave,
Aye.
Jess,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Judy,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Aye.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Aye.
Sue,
Yes.
Ben,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
Okay, so thank you for that one.
Okay,
So the second one that is also proposed, so as Dr. Law was explaining about PPEs and other items that we will need for when reopening and bringing students into the building and or staff into the building. These are items that have been identified that will allow us to do the proper social distancing, if it is not in place, to ensure that passing in the hallway or students and staff members have the proper facial covers. We have enough disinfectant on hand, purchasing electrostatic sprayers. That seemed to be the tool that everyone is talking about to assist us in ensuring that we can disinfect the rooms in a timely manner so that we're not adding extra staff to try to cover the square footage that we have. We're trying to get in line to get thermometers in place and just masking gloves and or hand sanitizing stations as well as sanitizers for classrooms. So the total of this purchase, proposed purchase, is $36,739. What questions do you have?
Does any of this fall under the federal reimbursement?
Yes, it can. But it is not on that spreadsheet because it has not happened as of yet. Again, this is proposed.
This is Judy. I guess to piggyback on Dave's earlier questions, information has changed as we've gone through this virus, this crisis, and advice. Is this kind of a state approved, or what we know that schools will be advised to use what we have, or do we have room for that to not bind ourselves into something only to hear that doesn't meet a level? And Dave maybe could help me, but I guess I'm happy that you are looking at this, and I think it's wise. I just think it's been difficult because there has not been, at least that I've seen, certainty or guidance on exact purchases to make from the state. And I just would want to make sure that we are adhering to whatever maybe becomes best practice and we don't know about right now. So if things evolve, do we have flexibility in this for that?
So what is happening here, and I apologize if you can hear my dogs barking. I just have a little one and she likes to bark at everything. So as Pat has stated, that I am one of the members of the EastCon Rest Alliance. And so we meet every Tuesday and we discuss these things. So currently, based on what we know as it is now, based on what the governor has told us, and nothing has been lifted yet, and they feel that in the fall, the same things will be in play. We're still trying to find correct guidance. We're still trying to get somebody to give us the clear-cut guidance. There is none. Tomorrow, I have another meeting with the EastCon Rest Alliance, and we're giving specific draft guidance that we're looking for the governor and or the state bodies to provide us with clear guidance on what to do. So we'd like to plan accordingly because unfortunately, the guidance as of right now is either to do 1 mask per student per, 3 masks per day, so that the student can change it out. Some people are saying 2 masks today, a day, 1 before lunch and then 1 after lunch. There are numerous approaches to how to do this, but the bottom line is we cannot social distance on a school bus. There's the potential that students can come to school if on the bus and either forget their masks or do not have the availability for masks. In order to keep our staff and other students safe, we need to be able to provide these items to them. You're right, because I share the same concern that, we're biting off more than we chew ahead of time. Unfortunately, Bridgeport alone for the first month would need 1 million masks. So I'm not sure where we would fall in line if we don't at least get in line to try to purchase something.
No, thank you for that, Eva. And I forgot for a moment that you are on that task force. That is helpful because those are some of the conversations I was referring to, but you are in the thick of that, and that's very helpful to the district. Thank you.
Are the masks even available? You're talking about surgical masks, correct, Eva?
Correct. So they are surgical masks. So yes, we have one vendor that says he can get them for us. So that's why, unfortunately, we're holding him off for this till this meeting till I can get a transfer approved so that we can move this forward. But again, I don't want to put the fear out there, but I also don't want to leave us high and dry and not at least get in line for what we need.
Are there any other questions?
Joe here. Yeah, so this is proposed, right? These electrostatic sprayers, they have not been purchased, correct?
Correct.
None of this?
Nothing has been purchased. This is all proposed.
Because that was my question. I think Dave asked it or Judy, but I mean, we're just shooting, into the, it's crazy right now. We have no direction from the state in which way we're going, and to spend this kind of money, I get being ahead of the curve and having a plan. That's excellent. But these electrostatic sprayers, I've actually looked into these for my job. They're very expensive, and I'm not sure what we're trying to do with that in this environment. I mean, can you talk a little bit more on why we're pursuing electrostatic sprayers?
Because they seem to be highly recommended by the powers to be in the cleaning world. They are also very hard to get at the moment. So because of the amount of square footage that we have, once people come back, so so let me backtrack a little bit. So when it comes to, we don't have a vaccine for the coronavirus as of yet. Come October, you have the flu season is going to hit us. You won't know if it's the coronavirus or the flu season, so there's a potential that we might be taking a break, a statewide break at that point in time. Again, this is all speculation and discussion. This isn't something in stone. So we're trying to, yes, we have a wonderful crew of staff members who do a lovely job of cleaning, but we would have less downtime for staff and or students to be in the building if we're able to be more efficient in trying to combat the disinfectant of the building.
I think along with, go ahead. Eva, along with that, we know that one of the discussion points that we've heard from, again, districts in Europe that have been trying to come back, as well as in conversations here, that socially distancing students is something that they'd be looking at. And that might mean for districts that you have split days for students. Again, this is nothing we've planned, nothing we've discussed. But if you need to clean rooms between an AM and a PM session, we also need to be able to do that quickly and efficiently, as we might be trading off A time and B time, or A day and B day for students, in order to keep the numbers of students in the buildings down. So we're looking at highly efficient and effective ways of our personnel being able to clean the building possibly multiple times in a day, if not fully disinfecting on a daily basis. So again, these are devices that would allow us to be able to do that.
Pat, my understanding is these are atomizers, aren't they though? Is that, or are you guys looking at some different product?
You actually put the disinfectant cleaner in this, and it steams or just vaporizes in the room. So you can actually, once you've done a surface, you can actually go into the room relatively quickly, as opposed to the traditional disinfectant, which the room needs to air out. So there's less potential for indoor air quality issues for people with asthma.
Right, okay, same thing. Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
Do we also need to have a policy, talk about putting a policy together about the, wearing masks and all that stuff for the kids and staff?
We will be creating protocols based on the guidance that we eventually get from the government and be putting those protocols together. I'm not sure that we'll need policy, but we'll probably need protocols. We'll wait and see what the government says.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie, one last thing. Eva, could you send us the breakout of the items, if you don't mind, please?
Sure.
So we can kind of look at that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so this is a continuation of the transfers, correct?
Correct.
So this would be a motion to accept the,
This would be a motion to either pass or reject the proposed transfer for the equipment and/or PPE.
okay.
So moved.
Okay,
Vin?
Vin, okay, we have Dave and Vin. Any discussion? No discussion?
Yeah, I just have one question, Stephanie.
Sure.
The stuff Ava was talking about spraying into the air. Are we sure that that's something we want to do in the school? I mean, is that safe for the kids? Are we nervous somebody's going to say they're having an allergic reaction to something like that? Do other schools use this?
Yes, other schools do use it, North Stonington being one of them. So when this all started, they actually had purchased one ages ago, and it was their claim to fame. They really enjoyed it, and they really sold other school districts on it. But it seems to be more and more, you see it in hospitals being able to utilize and clean up the room quickly. So it comes in highly in regard, especially with the indoor air quality that the school system needs to be aware of and make sure that everybody's okay with.
This is Judy. I'd like to hear at this point, just because I respect him greatly in this area, Dave's thoughts on this before I vote, because I'm unsure. I really want to be prepared. But I want to get the right thing and use money well. So.
Well, the surgical masks their main purpose is to protect people breathing out. They're okay for breathing in terms of, but they don't do they're not really fantastic for if somebody has the coronavirus and is breathing it at you. The recommended device is an N95. They do a very good job at protecting the outbound. But then again, I'm hoping that we're not going to, hopefully people will stay out. The problem is that 40 to 50% of the people that have it are asymptomatic. So you could end up spending a fortune on these things and never using them, but it's probably a good thing to get.
Part of why I asked that question is I was at a work event. We were on site and we were socially distanced, and we had masks and kids did, and it just wasn't as practical as one would hope. It was a difficult situation, and we had that conversation about what could be utilized and throughout an entire day and extremely well and for learning and things. So it's confusing to me. So thank you, David.
I think it's going to be a huge challenge getting the kids to comply, to keep them on. And then what happens during lunchtime? How do you eat with a mask on?
Right.
There's a lot of things that could be a challenge.
I was going to say, if I could add, there are 2 districts that I'm aware of that have stated if masks are in place to return, that they will continue to distance learn if there is no set clear guidance.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you repeat that? I only have caught that.
So there's 2 districts that I heard of that if masks are in play in the fall, that they will continue to distance learn because they know that they will have all those challenges.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what are we going to do if the kids go through both their masks by lunch and don't have one after lunch? Are we going to send them home? We're going to keep masks to hand them 3 or 4 a day?
You know, frankly, there's no reason why somebody can't use one mask throughout the day. They don't get dirty. As long as they're not dirty, they should be fine.
I think you guys are asking great questions, and these are all the questions that the advisory groups are struggling with, that we're starting to struggle with as a district starting to do this planning moving forward. Exactly the same questions. And we know that we don't have the guidance yet or all of the protocols at all developed for the district that we would need. But we do know that some sort of mask and protection that way will be needed. And we do know that gloves will be needed, thermometers will be needed, disinfectants will be needed. So that is why we're looking at moving these forward and then at least having them as we start to build our protocols. But I appreciate all the questions you're asking and all the things we're wondering about, because those are all very good questions.
Pat, has the conversation been had with the state? Why, I'm just going to ask the obvious question, why are your municipalities or the regions have to pay for this and not the state or the federal government? Why aren't they, if they're having the mandates and the direction, why aren't they buying the masks for every school district in Connecticut?
I don't know that the state's going to mandate that, but I think the state will provide guidelines. My understanding is that the state will be providing guidelines, much like they did for graduation, where districts will then personalize them to what their needs are, but still allow flexibility. I don't believe, and again, we'll wait and see, I don't believe the state is going to say you will have to do, everyone has to wear a mask, but they will say you have to provide social distancing. And if you can't, you will have to do this, or you will have to do A. And if you can't, then you have to do B or C. So I think the state is going to still have quite a bit of time left that they're going to have to try to figure all of this out to put this guidance forward. Our concern is that it's mid-May, we don't have the state guidance on summer school. And we're concerned that we're going to get into June, July, and even into August and still be waiting for the state's guidance, which we understand is difficult to do. But without having any preparation ahead of time, we don't want to be waiting to the last minute to at least start to have supplies in place that would allow us to put protocols in place for the fall. And I can't answer your question about the state. I think it's because they're not necessarily going to demand certain things, but I don't know, Eva, from your conversations, if you've heard any insight as to why the state's not paying for things.
It's I think the state is coming to a shortfall in cash. So wisely, or with a just with tongue-in-cheek comments that have been made, was the federal government can print money, the state can't. So the state's going to need a bailout pretty soon because of everything that we are being told to do and or they're trying to do for us and or themselves, because their own population is large in general. So I'm not sure why. I do know that, for this portion that we're currently in, the guidance is that employers are to provide masks and or material to make masks to their employees. So it's not a mandate per se, but it's another unfunded mandate. Basically, there's no way around it. So yes, we need you to do this. No, I don't have the money to give you or purchase it. No way of getting it for you. So yes, you need to do this. That's basically the state's position.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a time frame when you're going to purchase this equipment? So part of this transfer is is to have the funds available and you're going to purchase it, or are you going to wait at a certain point before you pull the trigger to buy it?
So my goal was to purchase it as soon as this transfer was put into place. However, based on the questions and the concerns that you're sharing and my own concerns and or feelings are being echoed, I guess is the best way to put that. I don't mind doing a partial kind of an order to have at least something coming and hold off on the rest.
What were you thinking?
Like maybe buying half right now and then holding off until maybe like maybe June 10th or something in that time frame to see if we have any more guidance.
Half, or how many masks are you talking about for half?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I don't remember that off the top of my head. I apologize. I probably should have done a better job of breaking that out. Something's ringing in my head like 1,500 would have been just for the students. So it's probably more than just 1,500, but we're in that like maybe 2,500 range for masks. So
For what, per day?
no, in total order.
I thought you were talking about two masks per student per day.
Yes, I'm not purchasing that kind of quantity. We couldn't afford that kind of quantity.
Right, okay.
Would supply that kind of quantity. No, that's what's being thrown out there. That really is.
Oh, okay.
That's the guidance. We're just trying to purchase something to have on hand.
Oh, that's good, because I was thinking that was overkill. I use the same, I'm an EMT and I respond in town, and if it's not a suspected COVID, I use the same surgical mask for weeks at a time. Unless it gets dirty, it's fine.
Right.
So that's better, right? I thought you were talking about seriously buying two per day.
No, that would be our whole net projection surplus. That would be going to masks. No, I can't do that.
1,500 masks really isn't that expensive.
So this literally is, there's thermometers in here, there's hand sanitizer stations. So this 36,000 is made up of a lot. So it's not just for masks. It's for anything and everything that we can think of to help people sanitize their hands, to help try to spread the germs. Right now, people are saying that people should be scanned before entering a building, both staff and students. You know, in reality, will that happen? I don't know, but we should have some thermometers even to help the nurses and or anyone else during the day to make sure if someone is running a fever that we have something working properly and can gauge that. That's
Eva, your explanation helped. I think I was imagining more of what Dave just explained for some reason. I misunderstood. So that was helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vin, did you have a question?
I was just wondering if we had gotten any guidance. I know a lot of the remediation companies that I work with that do mold remediation have now gone to do disinfecting and are using kind of the sprayers and stuff. Have we gotten any guidance from anyone on the health effects or are we having a consultant? Is anybody consulting on this?
So we actually had two different companies come give us quotes at the start of this for the exact same item that what we're proposing to purchase. With the chemicals that we currently use in the building, we can use in this sprayer that we're looking to purchase. So the chemical is not new to what we're currently using in the building. It's just delivered in a different manner. But each of those companies were close to $100,000 a piece to have them come in to disinfect the building. So I don't know if that helps any.
And so you'd be buying the sprayer and the custodial staff would be using it?
Correct.
And how much does the sprayer break out? Do you know that?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I do not.
That was all for me.
Okay, Scott, did you have something?
Yeah, I sure did. This is actually a great conversation. It's a long one, but it's important. If everybody just thinks about what we've gone through with face masks from start to finish, it's not masks, it's face covering. And I'm by no means an expert on it, but we should definitely. I think everybody's walked away from, and nobody's even proposing that we have, tractor trailers full of face masks that we're having kids change out 3, 4, 5 times a day. You heard from Dave, and I was just going to add, I know several of the companies that I associate with through work, folks that are out and about and in the public during the day are using a mask. They're using it exactly like Dave said. The recommended protocol is you use it until either it gets dirty, or if, of course, you have suspected contact with somebody who's infected or a carrier, and then they store them in it's really high tech. They put them in a Ziploc bag with their name on them overnight, so you can keep track of whose is whose. As silly as it sounds, things like if we are getting into a place where the protocol that this region moves forward includes face coverings, you seriously should look into things like reusable face coverings, like half the planet is using right now, which is essentially a bandana or something else that's around your face that you can wash. So just a couple comments. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who has questions or comments? Okay, I did the best I could to come up with a motion. And please correct me if you can, if you want to change the wording. Motion to accept transfers for supplies and equipment in preparation for COVID safety in the amount of $36,739. Is there a motion to accept?
I will second that. Is that what you mean?
I think I already made the motion, didn't
Yeah,
I?
I thought we did.
Did you already make the motion?
Yes.
We want, Vin wanted me to add the amount to that, so.
Okay. Friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment.
I think my last point of discussion is I'm just not sold on the spray. I would maybe like a little bit more information. I'm good with everything else.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll go to a vote. Dave?
Aye.
Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
I'm going to vote no.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Vin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
just to clarify, we will get a list from Abel. You'll provide us with a list of the costs with these items, correct?
Correct, and I'll also provide whatever information for Mr. Shadow so he can have some more information for himself too.
Thank you.
Yep. And the remainder of the transfers that are ones that happened for March and April are part of your packet. So they're individual, so you can see each individual total basically is there. But these have been done so that we could move the district business forward. Just so everyone is aware of these were different than the ones that I just had you guys approve. So are there any questions on the remainder of the packet?
Yes, I have one question on the budget journal entry. Can you explain that for me, please?
So which budget journal entry? So there's one number 38 in the amount of $4,872. There's one number 40. So if you're looking at the page itself, it's landscape. You see budget journal entries on the left-hand side, the journal entry numbers on the right-hand side.
Yes, yeah. So you could just quickly on number 38, what is this for?
So these were program transfers. So we had money left in adult ed professional services, And we put money into the equipment rental for that white tent that's out in our parking lot. So this also would be a COVID-related transfer.
Okay, could I ask maybe just as, I don't know, sometimes I've rented tents in the past for, in another organization, and we asked to purchase it. Maybe we could look into, maybe, we're still renting the tent, correct?
Correct.
Maybe we could look at, you could look into an option to buy that tent.
Yep, I can ask those questions.
Thank you. And then 42, I guess.
So this is mostly personnel transfers. So we had movement in accounts, people leaving, again, because of COVID. We had money that we're not doing additional, how do I explain this? So extra duties, other things that normally come through the school day. So again, for Mr. Flair's benefit, since we're discussing this one, yes, in this regard, these were some savings that went into the unallocated personnel and or to cover other areas that may have been a little bit short. So, and during this time frame, we're also, we have 3 paras that assist with the lunch distribution. So during the spring break, during Memorial Day, I think there was a Good Friday, they get the additional pay because those are not normal work days for them. So they do get additional money during that time. I believe it's a flat fee of $49. So the $200 transfer took that into account.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Just one question, Eva, on the spreadsheets, are we fully integrated now using the new software?
Almost 100%. So I still need to bring in the student activity account into that. So that'll happen as of July. And I'm just currently working with the system this week to transfer the budget. The budget process was done in our old system. I need to get the new application started for the 2021 year in our new system.
Excellent. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion on this next section of transfers?
Yes.
Okay. Would you define the wording for me, please?
I'm looking to have the board approve the journal entries as presented for transfers during March and April.
So moved. Vin Colonna.
Is there a second?
Dave seconds.
Is there any discussion? Okay, no discussion. Going for a vote. Dave?
Aye.
Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
I'm sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I before I get my vote, I was trying to get a question, but I was
Oh.
looking at an email. Can I go back to a question real quick? Or no? Well, can I just ask, what is the amount we're looking, because you didn't specify amount. What's the amount that we're transferring here?
You're right. I didn't specify an amount and I don't, hold on one second. Let me get my calculator. The total is 192,784. We'll round up.
Okay, shall we start? Do we need to
I amend
have a
the
motion on that
original-
again?
Amended to the 192,
784.
784.
Okay, is there a second?
I'd second that.
Okay. Any discussion?
Just a clarification, I just want to be clear on my, so it's the 4872, the 132,612, the 200, and the 49,409?
And then, so they're back-to-back pages. I don't know if you printed it that way or if you're looking at what was put in the mail to you, but there's one for $4,065, a $200 one, and a $1,625 one.
Okay, they were, so I did have them back to back. Yeah, so again, I'll just recap it. 4872,
Yes,
4,065,
yes,
132,612,
yes,
200,
yes,
1,625,
yes,
and 49,409.95.
yes.
And that comes out to 192,784. So,
Well, yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? All right, Dave,
Aye.
Jess,
Having issues here. Yes, aye.
okay, Joe,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, are we ready to go on to the
The appointment of auditor.
appointment of auditor? Yes.
So this is the OPM, Office of Policy and Management. So even though we have a 5-year contract in place with our auditing firm, every year annually, we have to just let them know that this is the auditing firm we're going to be utilizing. And it just requires a signature of the board chair on the form. That is why it's brought to the Board of Ed, so that you are all aware that this is happening and that we require a signature on the form, or they require a signature on the form.
Okay. Are there any questions? No?
So
Okay.
Stephanie, we'll need you to sign the form and then somehow get it back to us at the office.
Okay, that
Thank
can
you.
be arranged. Yep. We need to make a motion on this?
Yes, probably, yeah.
Okay, anyone?
Sure, I'll make a motion for Stephanie to sign and accept this year's audit people.
So PKF O'Connor Davies is the name of them.
So moved.
Second, then.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll go to vote. Dave,
Aye.
Jess,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Kathleen,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Sue,
Yes.
Ben,
Aye.
and I'm a yes as well. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. On to 11.4, discussion and possible action regarding the RHAM mascot with Mr. Leslie.
I'm going to share a screen and I will turn this over to Scott Leslie, who is anxiously awaiting this fun presentation.
This reveal, yes.
Yes.
Good evening again, everybody. If I could just take a minute before we jump into this, this is certainly related, but being that this is the last regularly scheduled board meeting before the end of the school year, I want to thank Dana and Emma, our two student representatives, for doing such a great job. Fortunately, Dana will be with us again next year when she'll be a senior. Emma served on the committee, the student committee that facilitated the mascot choice. So I want to thank Emma for her participation in that. We had a number of students and staff members that participated. There were close to 50. I want to thank all of them and obviously all the students and faculty members, staff members who voted. I'd like to thank Dr. Law as well, who was wonderfully supportive throughout this whole process. And in particular, I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Law. She has done a remarkable job of leading the district during these very, very difficult times and has been looking out for the health and well-being of our students and our staff, our families. So I really am greatly appreciative of that. So, is it up yet, Dr. Law? I'm not seeing it.
It's there.
I am sharing it.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna have to get it on both. I see it small, I don't see it big. I guess if I
Click on the actual presentation, when you on your shared screen, click up on the presentation up at the top. The actual.
Yeah, the little icon.
Yeah, clean up. If you click on your little where you can see it up in your top corner, it should get larger on your screen.
Okay, yeah, I am not seeing it.
Okay.
And oh, there we go. Okay, yep. So
should I go to the next screen?
Yep, please. So at the when we last met to talk about the mascot, I think I presented quite a bit of information about the interest amongst our students in looking for a new mascot and some of the issues surrounding that. So the first step that we took was to open up to the community, not just the students and staff, but to the community, an opportunity to suggest potential mascots. And we left that open for a number of weeks, and we ended up getting 116 suggestions from students, from staff members, from community members. And there were not 116 different suggestions. There were certainly some themes that kind of rose to the top. So the first thing that our committee, made up of 46 students, mostly students, and some staff members did was we looked at the suggested mascots and we whittled it down from, again, it wasn't quite 116. It was, I think, 40 or 50 different mascots that we had. And the most popular among the students were the Royals, the Raptors, the Ravens, the Rattlers, and the Golden Bears. And the Golden Bears kind of stick out, obviously, because they don't have the R iteration that the other names do. And the students, I thought, were really great because it was their idea to make sure that we had at least one mascot that actually happened to have quite a bit of support among some students, the Golden Bears, that didn't follow with the R iteration. So those are the 5 that we went out to for our vote with. So we created a form, and that allowed all of our staff members and all of our students to take a vote on the 5 options. We held that vote until about mid last week. We ended up with 1,286 responses or votes. We presented them to the group of students working through this, and there's a quote from Dan Tamburo, one of our freshmen, who kind of, I think, gives an idea of what their thinking was. And we found that we really did not have a clear front runner. And the reason being is that we had 2, the Raptors and the Royals certainly received the most votes, but because we also had the 3, the Golden Bears, the Rattlers, and the Ravens, many student votes were tied up in there. So the students felt that if we had just left it there, we really didn't have a clear front runner, and we had a lot of votes that were voting for mascot choices that really didn't resonate with many people. We did not have a majority vote. So the thought was that we would go back out for a runoff. So we posted it again towards the tail end of last week. Got a lot of feedback from students that commented that without RHAM athletics and without professional athletics, at least we had something else to look for. And so they kind of appreciated, I think, the extra drama and the competition that continued. So we ended up with 1,132 votes. That's about 70% of the students and staff put together. So we felt that was a strong showing. We unveiled, I met with the group earlier today, and we closed the voting at 3 o'clock today. And if you can go to the next slide, Dr. Law. The RHAM Raptors was the winner. The Raptors, kind of interesting because, you know, there's still another step here. Is the RHAM Raptor a bird of prey, an eagle, or is the RHAM Raptor the Velociraptor, the dinosaur thing? I can tell you that the I think overwhelming feedback we've received from students is that they're enamored with the dinosaur theme, more so than the bird. And actually I had a number of students who during the voting reached out to me and said, you know, Mr. Leslie, if the Raptors is a dinosaur, I'm all in. But if it's an eagle, I think I might prefer the lion. And so it was very clear to us that our students in particular, I think, were very much image drawn. They wanted to have a strong competitive image, and they really liked the idea of the raptor. So after our initial vote and then our runoff, the top vote getter is the RHAM Raptors. So I don't have a final image yet. Actually, Mr. Trudeau, our athletic director, is starting a process of meeting with students, athletes tomorrow. So we're getting representatives from the students. We had one of the soccer players reached out to me, and I thought, you know, had a brilliant comment that it's the athletes that are going to be wearing the mascot proudly on their uniforms eventually. And so they'd like to be part of the discussion of what's it going to look like. So that'll be the second phase of this process.
Thank you, Scott. You guys did a great job really involving everyone and making it a comprehensive process.
Does anybody have any questions for Scott?
Can I just add that we will be the only school identified as the Raptors in Connecticut. Obviously, there are other schools around the country. Had we chosen the Royals, there actually is another school in Connecticut, the Royals. But we will stand alone as the Raptors in Connecticut.
All right. Does anybody have any questions?
This is Jessica. I just had a quick question. Was it announced yet? Do the students know, or?
I announced it to, actually, we had a lot of fun. We announced it to our student group with I didn't present this to them. Instead, I presented the cut from Jurassic Park where the dinosaur is chasing the Jeep. You know, you got the dinosaur in the rearview mirror. So I'm waiting till after this meeting, and once you guys hopefully pass the motion, I will send out a notice and let the world know.
Fun. Good stuff.
Anyone else?
Just like to say thank you to Scott and the committee and all the work that went into it, and you know, good luck in the putting it forward, you know, going forward, and good luck to Dan moving the new mascot forward.
Thank you, Ben.
Anyone else? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the new mascot?
Jessica, I'll make a motion. Oh, is that Judy? Jessica, to approve the new Raptor.
Second that.
Any discussion? No? Okay, we'll go for a vote. Kathleen, did you have something to say?
I just wanted to thank, Mr. Leslie for involving so many kids. The image that you just told me about scares me like you have no idea. So I appreciate the name, but I'm just hoping it's not as scary as you're envisioning.
Well, Kathleen, our goal isn't to scare you, it's to scare our competitors. So hopefully you're onto something and it'll actually work out for us.
I'm sure it will be great.
Yep, but dinosaurs aren't real though, right? We're not thinking of like a Jurassic Park coming back here?
What's that?
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? Okay, we'll go to a vote. Dave?
Aye.
Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
Question, when are we gonna know on the eagle or the bird versus the dinosaur?
I would say within the next couple of weeks, Joe. Again, Dan is meeting with groups of athletes beginning tomorrow. So we'll know pretty quickly which direction that's going in.
So are we voting, Stephanie, on the name? That's it, correct, right now?
That's what I understand. Is that incorrect, Scott?
That's correct, yeah, just the name, right.
So the Raptors.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, then my vote is yes for the name.
Okay. Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Motion passes.
Great, thank you, everybody. I'll look forward to getting everybody Raptor t-shirts in the not too distant.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. All right. On to number 11.5, discussion and possible action regarding student travel for 2020-2021. I guess Carrie Ann Bell and Dr. Cerruti are going, and Dr. Law are going to present this.
Yes, I'll get that up as I'm getting the presentation up. I've asked, this first started with a conversation just about the Washington, D.C. trip. And then we realized that it actually is a bigger conversation for the district because we need to take a look at all of our travel. And per policy 6132, where we inform the Board of Overnight Trips and International Travel, in the world of pandemics right now, there's some timelines and things we need to be thinking of. And there's some questions at the end of the presentation for the board to try to hopefully give us within the district some guidance moving forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Carrie Ann and to Dr. Cerruti.
I'll be brief because Dr. Law already basically gave you the summary of our discussion. This initially came up because Ms. Bell and I had a conversation about the DC trip because it's that time of year when we do the early registration. We do have some flexibility there, and I'll turn it over to Ms. Bell to do the presentation about the trip. But it did bring up a broader question is we do have international trips to go out. We have our Quebec trip at the middle school, along with a DC trip to go out of state. We always inform the board. A few years ago, we had done a presentation on the DC trip. And right now, with the pandemic and everything that's been going on, we felt it would be important to basically have that discussion again, along with the board, and to see, your thoughts. And obviously it impacts not just the middle school, but also the high school. It could impact the high school going forward as well. I mean, it is an uncertain time, and there's a lot to consider. And everything that we went through this year, we're hopeful not to have to repeat. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bell.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for your time. I'll be brief a little bit just to give you some background on the DC trip from this year and a little bit of the process just so you can understand a little bit. I am the advisor now for the DC trip. I've been on it 18 times out of the last 20 years. And when Carolyn Larrabee left, I took over as being the advisor. So I took over for my first year this year, which was definitely interesting planning it and then having to handle it through this difficult time. So we originally this year had 163 eighth graders signed up. We would have left a couple weeks ago. Obviously, during the time, it did get canceled. And when it did get canceled, I worked with World Strides quite a bit, a lot of phone calls and communication, trying to give the best options for our parents. And they had two choices. They could actually have their child go next year. So we were allowing this year's eighth graders, if they wanted to keep their registration and go with next year's eighth grade class, the current seventh graders. And that way, they would just transfer their registration over, or they could get the chance of having their money back. If they did purchase the insurance, which was $145, they would have had their money back 100% in that way. And what they offered the other parents who did not purchase insurance to give them 100% of their money back minus, well, I guess not 100%, but minus the $145 fee. They also allowed parents, actually, they have until this October to make that decision. So they do still have some time. As of May 11th, when I created this PowerPoint for you guys, 54 families and students have canceled for various reasons. Some I know are not coming back to district. Some just have chose not to go on next year. We do have 21 students as of the moment planning to hopefully, if we have it, attend next year in May of 2021. And there were still 88 students who have not made the decision. I'm sure some are still figuring plans out. They know they have some time and, probably seeing what their child and maybe their friends want to do. We know a lot of this trip is partly, yes, it's with our eighth grade curriculum, but I know a lot of the students do like going with their friends. So they still have some time to make that decision. We also, just so you know, we have worked with the high school administration. I know Scott Leslie and the high school administration, we did make sure we cleared it through them to allow, that they would be great of working with us and working with the families of those to-be ninth graders, if they did go next May. So how pre-registration works, it usually is open now. Normally we're in school, and usually is open now to early June. Again, I talked to World Strides, letting them know, obviously, we are still not in school and not heading back this year. So they will extend the pre-registration until the end of September, if we choose to go. Some of the pros to registering or pre-registering early is they do offer a lower registration fee. So parents, when they pre-register, only have to put $49 down versus $99. There is a lower cost to the trip. If you pre-register right now, next year, it's $1,060. And it goes up approximately, I don't have the exact number, but about $100 after that pre-registration window. When they pre-register, they do have more time to pay off the trip. As we know, this could be a difficult time for people, but I know a lot of people, we had 141 out of 163 that went actually pre-registered last year. And I think a lot of them did like that they had the more time to pay off the trip because that balance is split over 9 months versus maybe 6 months if you register in the fall. And final payments are usually due around February, of 2021. So usually February before we leave. And then there is trip insurance. Again, some parents have bought it. Some parents have not. Probably something I would push for if we do move forward. It does cost $145. And like I said, even with the parents who did not purchase it this year, they basically gave them their money back minus that cost. And with trip insurance, parents can cancel that trip for any reason whatsoever, actually up until the day we leave. So there isn't, I know some people talk about travel plans and having different like contingencies where like COVID might not work with travel insurance, but they do. Travel insurance is for really any reason at all up until the day we leave. If they don't have trip insurance, and if parents still even want to wait to make that choice, they can actually get 75% of their money back up until February of 2021. And then and then one thing I did add, I think later on was we do offer I think I added afterwards, but we do offer scholarships. We gave, I wish I had the number, probably about a dozen families different proportions of money for scholarships or financial aid. So we want every kid to go that wants to go. And I don't think we've ever had a kid that we believe not go for money reasons. We've always worked with those families, full, partial scholarships, different money. We fundraise for money. AHM gives a scholarship on behalf of Peggy Tunick. So there are ways we can help ensure that any family who wants to go really can go on this trip. So that's a little bit of the background, so you at least know the process and how it works on my end. And then obviously it's not just the DC trip, but some other trips, just to kind of have that conversation of where we are now. And I know Dr. Legelford, what we're looking at moving forward.
Thank you, Carrie Ann and Dr. Sarusi, and I know you'll stay on so we can have a further discussion. So in having this conversation with the middle school and consequently with the high school as well, since we've got ninth graders next year that could go on this trip, we started looking at the larger question around, do we want students traveling next school year? Internationally, we've got Quebec, we've got Italy, and I think we also had one other one for the high school, another international trip. And then, yes, the Galapagos, thank you.
Morocco as well.
And then we have within the United States, we have DC, we have Boston, we have New York, we've got other trips that happen within the United States. So the three questions we were wrestling with that we'd love some guidance or some even motions from the board at this point are, do we want students traveling next year? Do we want to ask families to fund these trips given the economic impact that we know families are dealing with right now? And along with that, as Carrie Ann mentioned, and as you probably have all experienced in different ways, we do a lot of fundraising for a variety of different trips, events, athletic things within the district. And a larger question around that is, should we be fundraising in 2021, given the economic impact on families as well? And so we open those questions to the board for some discussion and some guidance for us and questions that the board might have to help us start to answer some of these questions. And again, the reason we're bringing it up is we're supposed to start planning for and asking families to commit to a DC trip. And we're not so sure that that's something we should be doing right now. So Stephanie, that's what we'd love to have a discussion with the board about.
Okay. Anyone want to start that discussion?
Sure, I will, since Joe here. Why can't we fundraise instead of giving the money and put it in like an escrow account and not commit to that until things get a little bit more clearer? I think the travel is important to all the kids. Don't have the crystal ball, but if it's something people can do, why not do that?
And I guess my question, Joe, would be, are you talking just for the DC trip, or are you talking overall for all trips or any events within the district?
Well, it seems like the DC trip is the most popular one. I think that has always been a discussion point at the board level with, funding it or, the timing of it. So I remember one year in my tenure here, there was when DC, some of the monuments were closed and so forth. But I think that, if people are having difficulty raising the money now, then maybe just give them an opportunity. Is that the struggle, or are we just looking to have a blanket statement that we want to allow travel to continue as a district or not?
We're looking for whatever guidance the board feels that they want to provide the district right now. Again, like you talked about, most importantly, the DC trip is the one that is up and right now currently something we're looking to open planning for next year. But these other trips will be coming along, and we might need to revisit each trip. And maybe that's something the board will say is they want us to revisit each trip as they come up in relation to the pandemic and what's happening health-wise. And that's fine. So we're looking for a variety of feedback from the board, most importantly around the DC trip. Fundraising in general, the question around the fundraising is right now, families are financially dealing with a lot of hardship, and we're questioning, should we be even asking families, and we can talk specific for the DC trip, should we be talking to families right now about wanting to try to fundraise for this trip when we know that we have many families that are struggling?
Can I ask just real quickly, Ms. Bell, I know that you said that you worked with World Strides. Is there a chance, so it says June 5th is the pre-registration, would they be willing to do anything as far as if people signed up, having something in place like we did this year instead of the 75%, considering the fact that nobody knows, and I agree, I think the kids really want to take the trip, and but for parents who can only get 75% back, it's still kind of a gamble.
Yeah, and I did talk with them, and it is on the slide where normally it would have been June 5th. They have extended the pre-registration till the fall. So I think partly what we're asking is obviously, if you agree, if you want me to, I can obviously throw it out there to parents now. Hey, you can pre-register now. I can wait until the fall if we go back to school or whatever school may look like, in August, September. I can wait till then to even, kind of put my feelers out to parents and have them pre-register, say, through the month of September. So we could even wait a little bit on that. They have until the end of September to do that. What I would probably encourage is parents take the trip insurance, because, some parents do, but I might just encourage it more. And some parents may want to take it now, knowing everything. I think we all probably take vacations now and may say, hey, I might pay that $99, to get my money back, just not knowing. Because I think just like this year, those parents got their money back minus the $145, which was ideally the cost of the insurance. So if they took insurance out, if this happened again, or they just chose not to go for whatever reason, even next May 1st, they could take that money back. They will get their 100% back, obviously, besides the trip insurance they cost. So I think I'm kind of looking a little bit, do I open pre-registration now to get feelers out? Do I just wait to the fall? Obviously, we may know a little more in the next few months. What the world may be like. We may not. We may have more questions than answers the next few months. Maybe we could revisit in the fall too to see what you're thinking. We kind of wanted to come to you and just didn't know your feeling on. Again, I love this trip. I'd love to go, but I totally understand the world we live in. If you were all like, right now it's just uncertain. So I think we're just looking for your feedback and what your feeling is on it.
This is Judy. I think that at this point, we should extend it, as you suggested, to the last point, to offer it to parents, because as you also said, we don't even know if we're going back in the fall. It's so uncertain, and it's clearly a wonderful trip, but I think, when did you say you had until September?
We have until the end of September. I don't know the exact date, but I'm assuming like the 30th of September, where they can pre-register and still get that. They can still register after that. The pre-registration gives them, like I said, about that little bit of a discount and a cheaper.
Okay.
But they can still register after. They just have less time to pay it off, if that makes sense. And
it does. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Vinny?
Hey, Carrie. Can you talk about the transportation and have any groups stepped up to help fund any portions of the trip before, like Lions Club or RHAM Education Foundation or anybody like that? Or have you reached out to them in the past?
Not that I'm aware of that they've helped out or reached out to them. I know, again, AHM has a scholarship, but that was on behalf of, if you remember, Peggy Tunick, who was one of our social workers who loved the trip. So they do a scholarship, which I actually am able to give to 2 children. It's like a partial scholarship. I have not, talked to...
World Strides actually gives a scholarship to in honor of Don Mallory.
Oh, yeah, World Strides gives, yep.
They fund at least 1 full or 2 partial, but other groups have not.
I haven't reached out though, but yeah.
Yeah, I would, obviously, I would like to see us get back into school first before we start talking about trips. Definitely not in favor of any of the overseas international transportation. I don't know how many families would be at this point, so I think that's kind of mute. But I think, if it does ramp up in September, in a way to reach out and get some help with the funding of the trip, so as to lower the payment plan, for people, so that, if there is less months to pay it off, hopefully we can get a lesser amount. And, I could definitely think of, a few organizations that would probably be willing to at least bring it up before their boards to help fund it.
Okay, thank you, Vin.
I think Joe has the question.
Joe?
Yeah, hi, Carrie Ann.
How you
Mike,
doing?
Hi.
I've always been curious about this. Why are we using World Stride, and what's the advantages, the disadvantages? And maybe is there something that we can do on our own internally to save money, as well as provide affordability for the parents who are that need a scholarship and so forth, or for planning. I hate to make a decision without knowing all the facts, so I'm just curious to why we use this organization. It seems like to pay $145 for insurance on top of, how much is the actual trip itself?
1,060.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's just to have 100%, insurance that you can back out at any time. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about that.
I know a few years ago, and I don't have all the information in front of me, but I thought Carolyn Larrabee, who was the advisor at the time, I thought did look into other companies, I believe. I don't know, Mike, do you know more about that? I don't know fully.
So I was involved in that discussion. I think it's been about 5 years now. At the time, we did look at other companies besides World Strides. And when you looked at the cost and what students were getting, World Strides provided a better, well-rounded trip. Also, they were using regular hotels versus using like hostels or university dorms and things like that. So it was a better quality trip. They were also going to more places. When you looked at the cost, I guess they could have lowered their cost slightly for a little bit less time, but then they wouldn't have done the same things. And we've looked in the past, we have changed the trip around once before. They used to go to Philly, then they went to New York. It lowered the cost a little bit, but the kids didn't like the New York stop. So, so that played into it 1 year. So they switched it back to Philly. It was the feedback we got. And we really don't get we get complaints about the cost, yes, sometimes, but we've always managed to help any families that do need assistance to go on the trip. We have not denied a student to go on the trip. I agree the 145 for the insurance it's a high cost. I mean, but at the same time, it's it's a little over 10% of the cost, but it is protecting them in a way which this year created a real hardship for Miss Bell over there. She actually, I got to give her a lot of kudos, was taking a lot of calls up until the last minute about trip insurance, fees, the whole 9 yards. And you'd almost have to be a lawyer to understand half the documents. And what we're trying to avoid is that sort of repetition in some ways. I mean, we do have the option of waiting until the end of September, which, is noted, is a good idea. Fundraising is definitely going to be maybe a little different this coming year because we typically do dances as fundraisers as well. That helps us. We don't know the future. And part of our reason, again, is as Ms. Bell has stated and Dr. Law has stated, is we're coming to you just to bounce these ideas off you and look at your recommendations for us as well.
All right, thanks, Mike. I'm just looking at it as $1,000 cost. I mean, I don't know what you get for that. I do remember
Oh.
you refreshed my memory, Mike, about the,
No, I absolutely, sorry, I can absolutely answer that. So
okay.
basically everything's covered but one meal. So obviously the buses, and they ask us who we use, so we do go through DATCO since that is who we use with our school system. I know in the past, again, I've been 18 times, we've had, like, I think at times used a couple other companies that may have been less. And I will say we've had some difficulties and things happen with other bus companies, and we've been pretty happy with DATCO through the years. So they get their buses, they get their hotel rooms for the night, they have all their meals paid for. It's admission to certain museums, like we've done the museum and a few others that cost admission. They get a picture at the end, the panoramic picture, which I know some of you have children who've been on it, they probably still have that. It's really everything. The kids don't need to bring, they could bring $20 with them to buy that one meal on the way down. And that's all they really need. And obviously if they want to buy a souvenir. So everything from the moment they leave the school to the moment they get back, meals, boarding, the things we do, our tour guides. I'm sure part of the cost, definitely the tour guides. We have a tour guide with us. We are pretty packed. I do recall, and thank you, Michael, I remember being a little bit of the conversation with Carolyn's. Again, I've been on this trip so much. I know a lot of other companies don't go as long. We used to leave Tuesday after school years ago. We now leave Tuesday morning because we put that Philly, part in there. So we are gone pretty much 4 full days. I had thought if I was going, I know other companies don't do as much. We will leave a hotel around 8 a.m. and we don't get back till 9, 10 o'clock at night. I mean, we are going and the kids see a lot and we do a lot. We really do jam pack a lot in there with the kids and see just about, there's so much to see in DC, but we do really see monuments, museums, the Capitol, all the Philly tours, and we do try to pack a lot in there with the kids. And so it goes to just about everything. They really don't need to bring anything but one meal on the way down.
And we can send packets to the board about the trip.
I can give you a sample itinerary if you really want to see something like that.
No, my question was really, so instead of someone doing it from the school, it's obviously more economical and planning wise. This company, World Stride, does all this for you. So it's just a pay and go type of thing. So that's really what I was wondering if there was any economies of scale as far as us doing it ourselves versus, not going through World Stride. Therefore, you wouldn't have to have, if somebody backed out, they wouldn't have maybe a small penalty or something like that versus, whatever the penalty clause is for World Stride. That's all.
Yeah, I will say them planning it and having them there. Again, being so many times, there have been things we've been through, storms we've been through. There was an issue we had when kids were getting sick. They have doctors on call, which part of that cost is there for the parents. We do have doctors on call, and we have used them. Unfortunately, had to sometimes through the years. It is just nice having that tour guide. That person, if something's going on or something at the Capitol, they can take you to another spot and switch the schedule around. They really do it's like your personal tour guide for the 3 days you're in DC. And I definitely know that's part of the cost, and it is very helpful. I've been on enough. I probably could put things together, but I don't know if I could go through everything and all the fun facts and stuff like that with the kids.
You should be the tour guide.
Honestly, I probably could do a decent job at this point, being so many times.
Julie McCoy.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, this is great discussion that we definitely need to keep going on, but I just want to remind everybody that we are way over the time, and I'm not sure where we want to go with this as far as making a motion for just the middle school trip, and put the international trips on hold, or if we want to make a decision on international trips tonight.
Stephanie, I think those are great questions. What I think I heard a couple of board members say was that maybe we just need to focus tonight on just DC, and we won't do anything with anything else at this point, but bring it back around to the board. But I did hear some board members saying that they thought pre-registration would be sent out in the fall when we're back in school rather than now. So maybe that's a motion just for the DC trip. I don't know.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, I don't think it will be a terrible idea to send some information out in June so families could have an idea of what's going on. Also, they might know the cost. So if they wanted to save some money over the summer to put, as a down payment in September, because like Carrie Ann pointed out, I think the biggest difference is you're going to be breaking down the payments in 6 installments instead of 9. So if they knew the total cost in June, they might be able to put some money aside.
So Rob, would it make sense that we maybe in one of our weekly updates to parents, that we give them an update on the DC trip, but not actually open the pre-registration to the fall? So let them know the cost of the trip will be this, trip insurance would be this, we'll be looking to open the pre-registration or revisiting or possibly opening the pre-registration in September so that they know what's coming, but not actually open it now.
I think that would make sense. But again, that's just my thoughts.
Okay.
I have a parent PowerPoint that I usually use I usually again have a meeting at this time. I could tweak it a bit and put some of the cost and more like as a heads up and some information on the trip, and we can send that out in the weekly report and let them know. Again, if you're okay with it, like that, we're hopeful, and maybe in the fall we'll open up registration. Again, all depending on the world as it is at the moment.
I have no problem with that. I mean, me personally, I think it's too early to cancel stuff. I would hate to cancel now and then have students miss the opportunity to go. So I think September gives us more time to gather more information, see the status of everything, and move forward. And if your presentation, explains to them what the cost is, then the parents would have that in the back of their mind. I think it covers all our bases.
Okay, I can do that.
I like the idea that Rob just had, because then also it's great parents communicate with each other and even come up with maybe a little bit different twist or idea, kind of like Joe was saying. It is a fairly pricey trip, and and I know you're very open to that, parent ideas and feedback, so it would give them some time to think about it, because you're right, we're in a very unique time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the DC planning trip and that we hold off on the pre-registration till at least the kids come back in August or September.
This is
There a
Jessica.
second?
That motion.
Okay. Discussion? Okay, we'll have a vote. Dave?
I'm going to pass on that.
Okay. Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to comment here, but I'd like us, and I imagine and expect embedded in this, is if things are not good in September, that we clearly don't go forward. I mean, that's inferred, right, Carrie Ann?
Yes, I think we'll know more. So, I mean, and maybe the other trips will want some information, because I assume other trips will probably start their, usually their registration at that time as well. So I'm fine with at least giving the information to parents, let them know we're hopeful. And then obviously we can, no one's registering now, so maybe we can make that decision once we know a little more what's going on.
No, thank you so much. I would just hate to see any parent lose 140, whatever amount they're losing.
Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate at least leaving it open, because, I know another year, who knows what next year will bring. I'm hopeful again, we're back in school, at least at some point, back to some normalcy.
Yes.
So I appreciate at least giving the time and not,
Okay, so my yes is with that understanding.
Okay, Kathleen?
Yes, and I just want to thank Carrie Ann. I know this year was tough, and I was one of those parents who was like calling her all the time. So thank you.
Okay, Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that would be 9 yeses and 1 no. Motion passes.
Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Steph, that wasn't a no.
That wasn't,
It was an
a,
abstain.
it was an abstain? Okay, sorry, Dave. Okay, let the record show that Dave abstained on the last motion. Okay, are we on to 11.6, which is the addition? That Scott will write a Board of Ed statement draft for legal review for a future executive session. Is there any discussion on, or questions or discussion on that before a motion is made?
I think we make the motions for the discussion, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine. Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that a board member to draft a statement for review by legal, followed by discussion and action at the next available executive session.
I'll second, Rob.
Okay, is there a discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. Dave?
Aye.
Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Abstain.
Vin?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Okay, motion passes. Now we're on to number 12, reports. A lot of these subcommittees haven't met in a while, so I don't think we'll have a lot of reports, but we'll start with facilities. Joe? Anybody from facilities want to report out?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had me on mute. Yeah, we met on May 5th. We had some discussion on several items. We talked about security planning, capital project updates, discussion around capital projects, which Dr. Law gave us an update on. Discussion in competition field, baseball drainage fields, which we're going to be talking about, I guess, in tomorrow night's meeting with Rich Clarko and BSC group, and capital equipment, and that was pretty much it. So more to follow next meeting.
Okay. Finance, audit, compliance, and insurance, I don't think have met, correct?
We did not meet.
Okay. Negotiations, I don't believe have met, correct?
Sorry, Stephanie, could we get a meeting on the books for finance? Or when is that going to happen?
That's in June. That meeting is scheduled for, I think it's June 4th. It's the next scheduled meeting. June 4th will be program and finance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Nothing for negotiations, correct?
Correct.
Policy is coming up tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
All right. And program communication is coming up on June 4th. DOT traffic grant? Any updates with that?
Would somebody like to do that, or would you like me to, or?
You can do it, Pat. Thanks.
So we met and negotiated with Luke's, who is the engineering firm overseeing the project. We were working with them on modifying their pricing for inspections and meetings during the construction. They did make the modifications that we agreed to in the meeting. And so we have signed off on those as an amendment to the contract. In addition, I checked with Andy Tierney today, and he has signed off on the contract with BB and is waiting for BB Construction to come in to sign the contract as well, but that is in motion. So we're in the process of starting to plan the actual timeframe for getting the construction going on campus.
Okay.
Stephanie, Pat, don't we need to have board approval on the negotiations on where we are with Luke's? Have we accepted that as our final?
We did at the meeting. We don't have anything that's being able to be presented to the board, but we have signed off on that. We can put it on the next agenda for the board to review.
I would think we should, because, so they know what the
Yep,
total number is.
I'll add that to the June agenda.
Okay. Anything else for DOT? All right, and the special committee fields improvement has not met recently. Correct. And then facilitators, EastCon and CABE. Judy, do you have anything for that? Judy, do you have any updates for EastCon and CABE?
I'm sorry, I was muted. The
That's okay.
EastCon meeting is actually tomorrow, so it's almost always a month ago once the report comes here. But they are trying to figure out many of the things that we discussed tonight, the uncertainty, that they maintain employees and are paying them, but it's a challenging time. So they are on the forefront. The RESCs are working with the governor. They've been appointed to really lead this work. So that meeting will be tomorrow. And as far as CABE, that's the next one. I think everybody has been receiving emails. And if you are not, let me know, because CABE is providing emails on social emotional learning. They're providing emails on trainings on all kinds of things and questions with COVID-19. And as a board member, you should be receiving those regular updates and emails from them. And I know I recently forwarded something to you on graduation, which actually has been covered through Mr. Leslie and Dr. Law.
Okay. All right, next is number 13, public comments. Again, we are limited to 3 minutes of public comments. If you have a public comment, please write into the chat or make yourself known by phone. Okay, I see no public comments at this time. All right, informational items, 14.1 and 14.2, calendar events and student discipline. Are there any discussion or questions regarding the calendar or discipline report? Okay, moving on. Executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion that the board go into executive session.
Stephanie, can I stop us for a minute?
Sure.
And it's a question, I apologize. My understanding is that we go into executive session and then we close that meeting and go back into the regular meeting and we have any kinds of motions or votes and that there's public comment again there. Am I incorrect, or should public comment happen again after executive session? Pat, I'm sorry.
Public comment has not happened after coming out of executive session.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay, thank you. I thought that the board made a statement and there is a chance. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My error.
No worries. Stephanie, should you also be inviting the superintendent at least to begin an executive session to talk about the appointment for the supervisor?
Yes. Should that be in the motion?
It should be.
To go into, okay, motion to go into executive session. We invite Dr. Law to join us in an executive session.
Are we inviting anyone else, Stephanie?
I don't believe, or I don't know, I'm not sure. I don't.
Okay.
Dr. Law, are we inviting anyone else?
We could invite Christine Hartwig if you'd like to know about the process that she used to go through the supervisor process, hiring process. If not, I can relay that and I can invite her in if you have questions. It's up to you.
Would you like a discussion on that? Would you like Christine to join us?
No, I think Dr. Law can probably convey that. And then if we had follow-up questions, thank you. We could
Okay.
do that. Dr. Law, does that make sense?
That's fine with me. That's what I was prepared to do. Thank you, Judy.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second, correct? All right.
I will
do
second
we-
if you didn't, Joe.
Okay. Do we need a vote on going into executive session, or do we go directly to it?
You can have a vote to move.
Okay. All right, Dave?
Aye, sorry.
Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Finn?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, we'll be going into executive session. We'll be logging out of this and going into the executive session link and then returning. Okay, I'm going to take attendance. So make sure we're all here. Dave?
I'm here.
Jess?
Here.
Is here. Joe?
Yep.
Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Present.
Scott?
Here.
Sue?
Here.
And Vin?
Here.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna make a motion. Do you want me to make the motion? On the discussion and possible action regarding the interim superintendent. I make a motion to appoint Scott Leslie as interim superintendent beginning June 23rd.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I thought we were going to put till the end of the summer.
Okay, I'll amend that. Motion to appoint Scott Leslie as interim superintendent beginning June 23rd until the end of the summer.
Stephanie, does that mean though that my contract goes till June 30th? He's stepping in though on the 23rd.
Correct.
That is correct. That is correct.
And we can add, do you need us to add, and Dr. Law's contract will end June 30th? We thought we could do that separately with the attorney, but we can add that. I'll do a friendly amendment. How's that?
Thank you, Judy.
With Dr. Law's contracting ending June 30th, 2020, friendly amendment.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Did anybody second that?
I'll second it, Joe.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay, now discussion? No? Okay. We'll be voting. Dave?
Aye.
Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Vin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Motion passes.
I don't think I voted, but I'm a yes.
Oh,
It's
did
okay.
I'm sorry, Judy.
Stephanie, I know we have a statement or something, but don't we have to vote on the student services coordinator?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Would you like me to read the statement now or wait till after?
Stephanie, just really quick, I just want to be on the record to say that I want to thank Mr. Leslie for supporting the district and stepping up in this transition.
Absolutely.
Why don't we just do the student service director position to have that business concluded?
Okay. Okay, does someone want to make the motion?
I'm on speaker. I make the motion that the RHAM Board of Ed appoint Mrs. Kristen Small as the coordinator for pupil services for the RAM Board of Education.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Can I just clarify, was that coordinator or supervisor that was stated?
What is her role, Pat? I'm sorry, supervisor?
Supervisor.
Thank you. Yes, I meant supervisor. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, discussion? Okay, moving on to vote. Dave?
Aye.
Jess?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Vin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Motion passes. Okay, I have a statement that I'd like to share. The board recognizes that the sudden and unexpected vacancies in the superintendent position and chairperson can seem alarming. However, the board will be diligently moving forward to find a superintendent candidate that echoes our dedication to academic excellence, support for students, staff, and administration, and fiscal responsibility to our 3 towns. In the meantime, the entire RAM community can rest assured that the district is in good hands with Scott Leslie as the interim superintendent beginning on June 23rd. In addition, we are grateful for our dedicated faculty and staff who continue to deliver excellent instruction in this most challenging of times. Lastly, we are confident that fiscal operations will continue to be managed seamlessly by the interim superintendent, business manager, and the board. Now I believe we are at adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
There's second?
Second.
Rob.
Okay. All in favor?
Yada, yada.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned at 10:26 p.m.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.